What's up, guys? Artem MMA Analysis here. Gonna be talking about Dana White's Contender Series 2022 Week 1. We're finally getting to that kind of time. We are at Week 1 of Contender Series 2022 is happening, man. It's happening Tuesday, the 26th of July is the first week, and it's going all the way down to about September, so we've got about 10 weeks of prospect action, and I really cannot wait to start talking about the Contender Series. If you guys don't know, I'm really passionate about Dana White's Contender Series. I make an article every week talking about contenders and upcoming prospects and stuff for the UFC Picks website, which is down below. And yeah, I'm just really excited for Contender Series. I've had my eye on this card for so long. I've had my eye on the whole thing for so long. I've been writing articles about it. I've been researching it, looking at the fighters, and I'm really hyped, man. I'm so excited to start getting into it. So let's start with Contender Series 2022, week number 1. And now let's get into the first fight of the night. This is my second time recording it because my previous recording was like 5.5 minutes, and I was like, mate, that's just way too long for one fight. I know in the past I've done like 8 minute fight predictions, like full on breakdowns, but yeah, man, I don't think I need 8 minutes to break down this fight. You know, I've got Alessandro Costa taking on Andres Luna Martinidi here. And in my opinion, Alessandro Costa seems to be more of the grappler of the two. Andres Luna Martinidi probably more of the striker of the two, you know. So I feel like the guy that's going to be looking to initiate the grappling sequences is Alessandro Costa. But Andres Luna Martinidi, even in a scramble, can end up on top, and he does have really good ground and pound. But let's talk about the fight, man. Alessandro Costa, his age isn't listed here, but he is 26 years old. He is 5'3", so he's a bit shorter than Andres Luna Martinidi, and he will be the smaller man in the cage. Luna Martinidi has fought at 135. He's gone up and down in his career. Alessandro Costa, out of his 10 wins, has 2 by KO and 6 by submission. And Andres Luna Martinidi, obviously 26 years old, almost 27. He's 5'7". He's 12-0 undefeated. And he's got 2 wins by KO and 6 wins by submission. Now, what I like about Alessandro Costa is as I said, he's going to be the guy that's going to be looking to grapple. He's going to be looking for the takedowns. I don't think he's really going to try and waste too much time on the feet with Luna Martinidi in this one here. But yeah, I think Costa, the guy that's going to be initiating the takedown, will be Costa, in my opinion. I think he's the better wrestler out of the two. I think he's the guy that's going to be looking to chain his takedowns together and look to get the fight on the mat. But I wouldn't count out Andres Luna Martinidi in this one here. Both of these guys are really good. Luna Martinidi, in my opinion, more of the striker out of the two. You know, Andres Luna Martinidi as well obviously has 6 submission wins, but very good. Very good on the feet, very good on the ground as well, to his credit. But I'm picking Costa here. I really thought that Costa was going to be the underdog, but he's not. So I'm a little bit surprised at that. So I'm picking Alessandro Costa as the favourite. And I really feel like maybe it's the level of competition that's really dictated these odds. You know, especially in 2020 and 2021, he fought no, more so 2021, sorry, he fought some pretty good guys. He became the Lux Fight League champion there by beating Jorge Calvo Martin, who was 12-5 at the time. Then he beat Kike Gonzalez inside the distance, who was 10-2 at the time. And all of these fights are on UFC Fight Pass. I will be linking a couple of fights in the comments below of the videos. If you guys really want to see some tape, I'll put the links down there. I didn't do that last year when I was doing Dana White's Contender Series, but I'll find some tape for you guys and I'll chuck them down there. You tend to be pretty good at finding fight tape. So yeah, give me Alessandro Costa here, but Andres Luna Martinidi as well. You know, he's been fighting okay competition, like not too bad. Like, he did beat Marcos Munoz, who was 9-1 at the time when he was 9-0, but I genuinely tried to find tape on that fight, and I don't know if I'm dumb or something's going on. I thought it would be really, really easy to find a video of that fight, but I just couldn't do it. So after I upload this, I'm probably gonna go back into the drawing board and try and find that video for you guys, because that's his best win on his entire record, and I just couldn't find it. But yeah, he's beaten a couple of other guys that, you know, have 6-5, 7-7 records, just kind of building up the record a little bit, really. But one thing that really sticks out to me the most is that he took a guy that was 0-2 to the distance. You know, he took him all 3 rounds, and he was 6-0. Yeah, and that was only like 2 years ago as well, like 2.5 years ago. I don't know, man. I'm not too sold on Andres Luna Martinidi's record. I feel like Alessandro Costa is going to win this fight, and I'm going to say it now as well. No matter who wins, even if it's a close fight or a decision or somewhat boring fight, Dana White's probably going to sign them. The UFC needs flyweights, and they need flyweights now. They also need heavyweights. So Whoever wins this one is probably going to get signed to the UFC, so be prepared to keep an eye out on both of these two guys going forward. If we move on to the second fight, man, we've got a fight I'm not that confident on. I'm going to openly admit that before we get into the breakdown. We have a striker versus grappler matchup here, and the striker is Denis Buzukja, and the grappler, or the wrestler in this one, is Calio Romero. The better wrestler, the better grappler is definitely going to be Romero in this one, but the better striker for sure will be Denis Buzukja. And now let's talk about the fighters before we kind of get into my prediction. So Denis Buzukja, he's 24 years old, he's 5'9", and he does have a 72-inch reach with a 7-2 record. He's got 3 wins by KO. And Calio Romero is 26 years old, he's 5'10" with a 6-1 record, he's got 2 wins by KO and 3 wins by submission. Now, what stands out to me about both of these guys is the level of competition that they've fought really isn't great. And I don't know if I said this in my article as well when I predicted this fight. I don't know if I can believe that either of these guys has a good UFC run in them at this point in their career. You know, both of these guys only 24 years old, 26 years old. I know if they're watching this or if other fighters are watching this, they're gonna just be like, you know what, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to be brutally honest, man. I feel like maybe this is a little bit too soon for either of these two. I wouldn't mind seeing a couple of more fights out of the two of them. I feel like maybe this is the fight where Dana White says, hey man, like, I like you guys, but I feel like you're too inexperienced, or I want to see more or whatever. And then kind of everyone's just like, well, why did you sign them to Dana White's Contender Series in the first place if you didn't think that they were ready for the UFC? But that's not the point anyway. Let's look at these guys because you know, I'm talking about the level of competition they've fought, and I'm just not that sold. You know what I mean? Like, Denis Buzukja went 5-1 as an amateur, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Calio Romero, he went undefeated as an amateur, which is pretty cool. But the pro records they've been fighting, you know, we've got a combined record of 26 and 23 for Denis Buzukja, but for Calio Romero, we've got a combined opponent's record of 13 and 32. Actually, that can't be correct. Actually, but anyway, yeah, of his wins actually, yeah, 7, 9, yeah, 13 and 32 out of the guys that he's beaten as the combined record. You know, he lost to Jonas Flock, which isn't too bad of a loss, but at the same time, it's not that great. Like, Jonas Flock's in Equal FC right now, I believe, and no PFL, it's PFL I'm talking about. But even then, like, it's just, I just don't know how I feel, man. I just don't know how I feel about Calio Romero. I feel like, you know, his gym or whoever's managing him was trying to build him up, and they tried to build him up too quickly. They gave him Jonas Flock, who ain't bad, you know what I mean? He ain't a UFC level fighter, but he's not bad. And he didn't pass that test, so now he's back to building up his record, and now he's up taking on a big test in Denis Buzukja. Denis Buzukja, the striker, you know, he's got some good KO wins on his record, but most of the time he's winning decisions, which is not necessarily what I want to see when he's fighting a wrestler. Like, I want to believe that Buzukja is going to knock this guy out, especially if he's fighting against a wrestler. But I do think that the takedown defense of Buzukja should be good enough. I think that the cardio of Buzukja is better. I think that Calio Romero definitely has the better wrestling. He's got the better takedown defense if Buzukja tries to go for a takedown, but I don't think he will. And he can get a submission. That's one thing that Denis Buzukja's never done. He's never won by submission, so there's not a submission threat there from what I've seen so far anyway. If the fight does hit the mat, which does kind of scare me a little bit, but yeah, I just don't know how I feel about this fight. Like, you know, like, I feel like Buzukja's just so much of a better striker that he can make Romero pay for a takedown defense, because that's what Romero's going to look to do. He's going to look to wrestle, and if he doesn't get the takedown, then Buzukja does have the opportunity to light him up on the feet, or at least look really good on the feet. But as I said, I'm not super high on either of these guys at the moment in their career, unless one of them shows up big time in Dana White's Contender Series. But for now, I'm going to go with Buzukja. Not super confident like one guy is in the chat. He said, like, Buzukja by KO destruction. I'm I hope so, because I'm picking him. But yeah, give me a Bazooka. I mean, I'm not too confident in the KO. Maybe like a late TKO, but give me him by decision. I think the Bazooka should win this one here. Moving up, we've got Anton taking on Acacio dos Santos, and I said this in my I said this in my article, and I'm gonna say it in my video. Anton may have one of the greatest nicknames in MMA right now. The Pleasure Man, Anton taking on Acacio dos Santos. And let me tell you one thing, man. I am sold on Anton I really like this guy. And one thing I really like about this guy, man, is that he's from Sweden, and he's rumored to be a UFC card later on this year in Sweden. So if Anton wins, he gets a contract, and then they put him on the Sweden card later this year, and boom, we just got a Swedish star. Just like that. Too easy, honestly. In my opinion, I know what the UFC's doing with this one. I can see it, man. They're giving him a winnable matchup in Dos Santos, and Turkalj, I believe, is going to win, and I think he's going to pass this test with flying colours. He's going to win a UFC contract. They're going to put him on the UFC Sweden card, which is rumoured to be later on this year. I mean, you just got yourself a Swedish prospect just out of nowhere, you know what I mean? But hey, man, that's he's got to get through Acacio dos Santos first. But let's talk about the fight, man. So Anton Turkalj is 25 years old. He's 6'4", and he's 7-0, undefeated with 5 KOs and 2 submissions. Acacio dos Santos is 30 years old. He's 6'4", 14-4 with 6 wins by KO, no wins by submission. But he has actually, in my opinion, fought some pretty good competition. You know, Dos Santos has been around the block. He has fought some pretty good guys. Like, I mean, sorry, to start with, he did have a grappling belt with Carlos Felipe, which he won. And he had a grappling belt with Jailton Almeida, which he lost, because of course he lost. It's Jailton Almeida, of all people. But he's also got to win his age really well. He's beaten Mateus Scheffel. Yes, he is the guy that got knocked out by Azamat Murzakanov on Dana White's Contender Series. But recently, for some reason, Mateus Scheffel managed to beat Bruno Capoloza in PFL. So yeah, don't even get me started on that one. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, I really do like Anton Turkalj to win this one here. Like, yeah, he's just such a good fighter. He's only 26 years old, such a good prospect. He's really explosive on the feet. He's got good kicks as well. He throws up a lot of kicks. I mean, he grappled with Alexander Gustafsson, and he had a really good amateur run as well. He made it all the way to the finals of the IMMAF European Championships, and he did lose a decision there. So he finished with an amateur record of 11-3. Now he's undefeated as a pro. Beat Ibo Aslan, who I do believe would run through Acacio dos Santos. And he also beat Konstantin Soldatov, who's also a pretty good fighter as well. And that replay, I believe, is actually going the rounds on Twitter, because he obviously won by spinning back fist. I think it was more of a spinning back elbow, 13 seconds into the first round. The fastest Brave CF KO ever in the history of Brave CF, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm pretty confident Anton Turkalj wins this one, and I'm pretty confident they put him on the Sweden card as well, which would be pretty awesome. So yeah, give me Turkalj to win this one here. Now, what Acacio dos Santos does, he does like to clinch up a lot when he's on the feet, and even then, he's if he does look to take the fight to the ground, he's not really looking for a submission. You know, he's got no submission wins. He kind of just holds you on top of the ground. He kind of holds you up against the clinch, but he's not really going to want to be on the feet with Anton Turkalj, in my opinion. Both guys, though, are very hittable, so Dos Santos does have the opportunity to find a KO here. But Acacio dos Santos is also very hittable on the feet as well. So both guys equally hittable on the feet. But if someone's going to look to grapple, it will be Turkalj. And Acacio dos Santos' takedown defense, in my opinion, hasn't looked too great. So maybe we see a mixture of everything from Turkalj. A striking, a bit of striking, and then a bit of grappling as well. I think that he finds the finish somewhere inside the first couple of rounds. I think maybe the fight potentially leaves the first, but it is Dana White's Contender Series. These guys are fighting for a contract, so they fight crazy in Dana White's Contender Series. Give me Turkalj by first or second round finish, KO or submission. I wouldn't overlook the submission for Turkalj, but Dos Santos, you know, he has been grappling with some good guys like Jailton Almeida. So yeah, give me Turkalj by KO. I think he gets it done inside the distance, and I'm pretty confident with this pick, man. I really do like Turkalj as a prospect, undefeated as well, and Swedish. Put him on the UFC Sweden card for like the 4th time. I want to see that happen. Moving up the card, we've got the co-main event, I guess you could call it. Farid Basharat taking on William Souza. If you guys don't know, Farid Basharat is the brother of Javid Basharat, and I think he's the younger brother of Javid as well. He's not a very old dude. I think he's in like 24 years old, and Javid is 26 years old. So, yeah, younger brother of Javid Basharat, who is currently in the UFC, and he scored a contract last year. So let's see if his brother Farid can. And in my opinion, he can. I think that Farid is just better everywhere, in my opinion. I'm going to be truthful in that one. I do believe Farid Basharat is better everywhere, especially on the ground. And I think he's going to find a submission in this one here. So let's talk about it. Farid, 24 years old. He's 5'6", 8-0 with 1 win by KO and 5 wins by submission. William Souza is 25 years old, or 26 years old now. 26 years old when the fight happens, and he's 5'11", with an 11-1 record with 9 wins by KO, 2 wins by submission, 100% finish rate, which is pretty awesome. You can't say the same for Farid. But in my opinion, if William Souza wants to win this fight, he has to find a KO. And Farid Basharat, you know, when he does fight, he does have his hands quite low because he's usually going to be looking to grapple because he is a good grappler. But William Souza, you know, what he's showing to me in his previous fights is when he's on the ground, there's not too much of a threat there, on his back, that is. But when Farid Basharat is on top, that's when things could get a little bit nasty. I think on the feet, you know, William Souza, he's packing a lot of power for a guy at 135 pounds, you know, 9 wins by KO ain't nothing to laugh at out of 11 wins, but I think Farid Basharat, I think he's going to be too fast. I think he's going to move too well to get caught by Souza. And I don't think Farid Basharat's going to waste too much time on the feet in this one. I think he is going to look for takedowns. And I think he is going to get the fight to the mat where he will eventually either dominate the fight and win a decision or get a submission win. So yeah, give me Farid to win this one. I do think he's a pretty special prospect himself. You know, he hasn't fought super great competition, but in my opinion, he's fought better competition than Javid did coming into this Dana White's Contender Series. So he went 4-0 as an amateur, come through, you know, built his record up a little bit, started fighting good guys when he hit 5-0. You know, he fought Marco Zanetto, who was 4-0 when he was 5-0. Then he fought a experienced opponent in 16-8, and then Raul Guzman most recently in 2022. Now he's making a somewhat quick turnaround 4 months later. William Souza, potentially the toughest opponent to date. But I think he's going to pass with flying colours. I really do believe Farid Basharat wins this one. I'm pretty confident in him to win as well. But William Souza, potentially a good dog if he can find the KO. But I just don't see it personally. He lost his debut, and since then he's been on an 11-fight win streak. Built his way up, all the way up until he fought Diaz Bautista, who was 8-2, and that's his best win on his record, in my opinion. But yeah, I can trust Farid Basharat so much more in this one here. You know, William Souza, if he can defend the takedowns, keep the fight on the feet, he could definitely find a KO and win a contract on Dana White's Contender Series. But I really do believe that Farid Basharat's going to look to grapple William Souza. I think he's going to look to take him down, and he's going to find a submission after that. But it's definitely worth noting, though, that 5'11" is pretty tall at bantamweight. William Souza's going to be a big dude in there, man. He's going to be a big, lengthy dude, so that's pretty cool. But I think Farid Basharat's really going to look to get the takedown. I think he gets the takedown. William Souza won't offer too much off his back, and Farid Basharat wins by decision or submission. A lot of people agree with me. Souza by KO or Basharat by decision or submission. I'm leaning the Basharat submission side. Personally, I think he finds a submission at some point in this fight. So, yeah, give me Basharat, man. And now we have the quote-unquote main event or featured bout, whatever you want to call it. Ozzy Diaz taking on Joseph Paya. I'm going with the underdog, Ozzy Diaz, my only underdog pick of the card. I really thought Alessandro Costa was going to be an underdog, but he wasn't. So give me Ozzy Diaz, who's really big for 185. You know, he's 6'4", taking on Joseph Paya, who is 6'1". But talking about Ozzy Diaz, you know, he's going to be 31 years old going into the fight. He's 6'4". And as I just said twice, he's 7-1 as well. But yeah, what I like about Ozzy Diaz is the power that he's got in his punches, man. I think that he's a much better technical striker than Joseph Paya in this one here. Joseph Paya, you know, he's only 25 years old going into the fight, and he's 6'1" with a 75-inch reach with an 8-2 record. But I think the reason why he's been given the favourite status is because he's just a little bit more well-rounded than Ozzy Diaz, in my opinion. You know, like Joseph Paya, if he needs to, he will look to wrestle, he will look for takedowns. But on the feet, I think the better technical striker is Ozzy Diaz. Both guys have wins by KO. What am I talking about? Striker versus striker matchup. Of course they do. Ozzy Diaz, 5 wins by KO, 2 wins by submission. Joseph Piper, 5 wins by KO, 2 by submission, 1 by decision. And both of these guys also have amateur careers. Looking at Ozzy Diaz, he went 7-2 as an amateur. He also fought Dominic Reyes in 2014. You know, like that's pretty. That's not a bad loss to have on your record. You know, and then since then, you know, he's been fighting pretty often, especially picking up a couple of fights over the course of 2022. And now he's going to be fighting Joseph Piper. He really let it go when he fought Bruno Assis and got a first round KO. And I believe that's what got him on the map to fight against Joseph Piper on Dana White's Contender Series. I believe it's actually that win over Bruno Assis that got him here, you know. And I think that's really what opened the eyes of the matchmakers in the UFC. But now let's talk about Joseph Piper. Amateur record of 4-1, and then since then he did go on a pretty good win streak. Lost to Genovan Party, who I believe has been fed to quite a few guys now that are in the UFC, such as Jamie Pickett and Joseph Holmes as well. So not really the worst loss to have in your record, but not the best either, in my opinion. But he bounced back pretty quickly. Beat Chase Gamble, lost to Dustin Stoltzfus by that slam in the first round, and come back, and now he's fighting Ozzy Diaz. I think Ozzy Diaz wins, man. But the thing is with Ozzy is he might be a little bit too old for the UFC to build as a prospect, you know, because a lot of these guys that they sign, they build them up as a young prospect. They give them older guys, this and that. But if you sign Ozzy Diaz as a guy that's 32 years old, you've got to give him some decent opponent straight away, because you don't have that time to build him up from the bottom all the way up. So I like Ozzy Diaz. I feel like in this matchup he's the better technical striker. Both guys have power, but Joseph Piper is going to be throwing a lot of hooks, a lot of kind of winging punches. Ozzy Diaz is going to be throwing the more technical strikes, and I think eventually Ozzy Diaz finds the chin of Piper, and I think he's going to get the job done inside the distance. So give me Ozzy Diaz by KO. I'm pretty high on him. I'm still not sold on Piper, but the guy's not even 26 years old yet. He's got so much time to develop, potentially a little bit coming back a little bit too early after only one win after losing to Stoltzfus. But it is what it is. I've got Ozzy Diaz. I do believe he is going to find the win by KO in this matchup here. But even if it does go to the ground, he does have a couple of submission wins on his record. But the better grappler, or the better wrestler at least, in my opinion, definitely is Piper. But yeah, give me Diaz. Give me Diaz to win by KO. And that's it. That's it for the whole Contender Series 2022. Thank you guys very much for watching. I've actually got to go somewhere. I've got to leave in a couple of minutes, so I'm sorry that I rushed that last video, but man, I'm so excited for this card. I'm so excited for all of Dana White's Contender Series this year. Really looking forward to it, and I'll see you in the next one. I'll catch you later.